thinking about it. Yay! It's doing it. Excellent stuff. All right, then. We shall get started. So, hello and welcome to Season 8 of the Mundane to Magical Online Summit Series. My name is Louise Matson, and as always, I truly am blessed to be your host. Today, I'm really excited to welcome a brand new speaker to the summit, the wonderful Wendy Rose Williams. Now, last season, Raven Many Voices, many of you will remember, was a speaker on the summit, and she reached out and connected me with Wendy's work. I'm truly grateful that she did, as this is just one of those ways that Spirit works with us through our connections to other people. And my intention for each summit, as always, is the perfect speakers bring the perfect message or wisdom to the perfect audience. And so I'm super, super grateful that Raven reached out. So Wendy is an author, energy healer, past life regression therapist, whose spiritual awakening journey started with 2 near-death experiences whilst pregnant, which I'm sure she will share more about on this call. During these experiences, Wendy met with her angels, and it also was that linked with her connection with her soulmate that introduced her to Newton's journey of the souls and to past life regression and her own healing and awakening journey. The remarkable difference in Wendy's quality of life inspired her to help others live a happier, healthier life by releasing their chronic pain and anxiety and depression. And so Wendy became a certified spiritual teacher and Reiki master energy healer, as well as a hypnotherapist. She co-hosts the Waking Up Spiritually podcast with 50 episodes archived and is publishing her 3rd book, Regression Healing 2, Joe and Marilyn. Now, the topic of our conversation today is what it means to wake up spiritually and how to connect to your intuition. And as always, there's a flow to these conversations because Peter was speaking yesterday in his live call about now being the time for us to drop into our hearts and connect with our intuition. So this is perfectly timed as always. So I'm really excited to hear what Wendy has to share with us all today. And so it's my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome you to the show, Wendy.
Well, Louise, thank you so much for having me here. And I ask everyone to please forgive the froggy voice. We will just plan on that holding up for the conversation. I'm so happy to be here. And our spiritual awakenings, they can just come to us in such different ways. And what I mean by that is just being able to hear your intuition, being able to hear that quiet whisper of your own soul, and just getting connected with your higher self and with your soul, because we do have such a marvelous guidepost there in our heart, as you said, Louise, but there can be so much clutter to get out of the way. There can be so much overscheduled, overly busy, and we also can be socialized to not listen to that voice. Yeah. And, oh, here's what you should be doing. That type of thing, whether it's from well-meaning family and how we were raised, or via society in general, or via well-meaning church socialization or other types of things, but just a lot of clutter in the way. And a lot of times we have to be shaken to be awakened. And that was definitely the experience for me, because my guides laugh and they say, oh, wow, you were super stubborn. It was a question whether I was going to wake up and do my work. And I'm so glad I did. I've never been happier, healthier, more peaceful, but it took quite a journey over the last 10 or 12 years to get there. And what started for me was the near-death experiences, and 2 in a week while I was pregnant with our 2nd child. It was my 4th pregnancy, but our second daughter. And so there'd been infertility, there'd been ectopic pregnancy loss. So a very, very wanted pregnancy in August of 1997. And what happened was I was only 10 weeks pregnant. And I'd been for one visit to the doctor. Doctor says everything's looking great. And I felt great and just, heart overflowing from wanting this baby so much. But two things were very off to me. I was having incredible prophetic dreams every night, but I didn't understand. I was 36 years old. I didn't know what prophetic dreams were, that your intuition can be trying to tell you to pay attention to something. So almost every night I was dreaming about this violent storm out at sea, and I would see a big ship, and the winches and the cleats would tear off, and the masts would break off, and the ship would always break in two and go down. Well, now it doesn't take a really strong dream interpreter to tell you, Wendy, your ship's about to go down. But I didn't know that. And I was working at home. I was alone. I did not have the car. My husband's at work with one car. Our nanny is at the park with our little toddler, and she's got the other car. And I just can't get comfortable as something feels off, something feels weird. And I keep trying to work, but then it's like, oh, I have to go lay down. Oh, I have to go in the bathroom. I don't feel right. Am I going to be sick? What's going on? I got to the point where I had this feeling of impending doom that I've never had before. And I've since heard from many near-death experiencers that same wording, that same feeling. I ran into the bathroom thinking, I'm going to be sick. I don't know what's happening. And I looked down because there was this searing pain. And all I could think of was an organ burst, and my ship is going down. So I passed out on the floor. I'm unconscious at home alone. And I only came to because I could hear this insistent male voice saying, Wendy, you've got to wake up. You've got to call for help now, or you're going to go home. So I open my eyes. I'm laying on my side on the floor, so I'm kind of disoriented. And I look up, and my bathroom is filled with angels. And I was just shocked. It's like my mind is trying to take this in. Oh my gosh, angels are real. They're not just this beautiful thing in art or on Christmas cards or that I hoped and wished, really existed. There is no doubt when your bathroom is filled with angels, angels are real.
Yeah.
So he repeated to me, you've got to call for help now. And I said, I know, but I can't walk. And his answer was very telling. He said, you just have to be willing to try. And I think what that was about free will, because we live on a free will planet. And if we want to try and soldier through life with no help and without our intuition, without our higher self, without our guides, without the divine, we certainly can do that. But it's going to be a pretty tough life. So I said to him, I know, but I can't walk. And when he said, you just have to be willing to try, I managed to get up on my hands and knees with a lot of effort, still just clutching on my abdomen because I really felt like there was a knife stuck in it. And at that point, Louise, it was amazing. It was like being gently flown to the telephone, which was not very far away. Because again, this is 1997, and I did not have a cell phone, glued to my hand or stuck in my back pocket like it always is nowadays. So I had to get the landline. I'm there trying to reach it because I'm still on the floor. And I'm trying to reach the landline. And then I'm thinking, okay, who do I call? He just said, call for help. So I called my husband at work. There, the miracles continue because I actually reach him at work. Don't think that's ever happened. And I give him great credit because all I said was, I need you to drive me to the hospital now. Something's really wrong. Can you do that? And he said, on my way, and just threw the phone down. And I knew he'd be home within 5 minutes. So it was faster than an ambulance could get me to the OBGYN office, which was at the hospital, which was also, I think, just all the stars were aligning that I was going to be very fortunate and was going to survive this experience.
Yeah.
So I just had time to call the OBGYN office, told them what was happening. Extreme pain, my abdomen is distending. No, there's no bleeding. And they said, when you get here, tell your husband not to park. We're going to meet you right down at the entrance with a wheelchair. We don't want you walking. So they put me in a wheelchair, whisked me up to the physician's office, to the ultrasound room, and tried to ultrasound to see what's going on. And I don't understand the ultrasound screen because, Louise, it's just black. There's nothing on it. And I looked at the gal, I looked at the ultrasonographer. I'm like, is your machine on? Is your machine working? And I saw her put her game face on, and she just touched me on the shoulder and she said, I'll be right back. Physician in. So she comes back immediately with a physician and a nurse midwife. So we've now got 5 of us squeezed into this tiny little room. And the doctor tries to adjust the machine. He just looks at it and kind of shakes his head and says, oh, Wendy, you've got a major abdominal bleed going on. We don't know where it's coming from. Something has clearly burst or gone wrong, and that fits with what you felt like had happened. We've got to admit you up on the floors right now. So they took me via stretcher. Someone ran and got a stretcher and moved me over onto the hospital side and got me straight into a hospital bed. And they start calling for blood to transfuse me at that point. And I can hear the nurse out at the nurse's station. I also noticed that they gave me the room right next to the nurse's station, which I knew also meant they were really, really concerned.
Yeah.
I was so grateful I was getting this care so well and so quickly. It's like everything was happening so fast. And the nurse comes back in the room and she'd asked me my blood type. And I said, she said, do you know your blood type? I said, absolutely. It's A negative. I think everyone should know their blood type. And just get one of the free in case of emergency apps and put it in your phone. And then if you're ever in a situation where you have laryngitis like me and you can't talk, whatever might be going on, medical personnel, they don't have to know the passcode to your phone. They can just pull up that in case of emergency app. They can see your blood type, any medication allergies, anything else you want to put in there. Mine even includes how to feed my dog, because if you're a single person and something's gone wrong and you have to think about pets at home.
Absolutely.
Highly recommend having those. She comes in and says, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this, but I'm calling the Central Blood Bank, because that's what we have in Seattle, to not waste blood with it being such a precious resource. So she's called the Puget Sound Blood Bank. And she says there's no A negative blood for her because we just had this major train collision in Seattle 3 days ago, and it wiped out all the A negative blood. So there'd been some conversation, was I to go directly into surgery, but we have no blood. We don't know what we're operating on. So the decision was made to wait and watch. And of course, I'm being carefully monitored. And I agreed that made the most sense. It's like, we're not going to rush into surgery, no blood here. It's just not a good call. Fortunately, they were able to find some, and about 6 or 8 hours later, they started hanging bags of blood. But I could see how alarmingly fast you were going through it. And my abdomen just kept distending more and more. I also, Louise, I could feel myself walking between worlds. And it was very hard to stay conscious. It was very hard to answer questions or focus. People would have to get, right in my face and kind of gently wake my shoulder or shake my shoulder to get me to pay attention to be able to answer their question. I think what concerned me the most was I didn't really care. I could feel myself letting go. And that's not my personality. That is, I have always been just so determined, so enthusiastic. So it was like, oh, wow, something's really going on here. And what happened was after about 3 days, we were obviously measuring hematocrit and other important lab measurements every day and monitoring me. And on day 3, the physician says to me, Wendy, you're officially bleeding out. You probably know that. We cannot pump blood in quickly enough to replace what you're losing. So we need to do surgery.
Mm.
I've been on morphine for days. I've been transfused for days, 10 weeks pregnant. I mean, this is certainly not what you want going on in your first trimester of pregnancy. But I agree to the surgery. There's no choice. And we agree it's going to be the next morning. Some brief discussion of would I be better served downtown? Did I need to be transferred to the city hospital? And I said no, because I knew the hospital where I was, my local community hospital, delivered about 5,000 babies a year. I'd also had 2 surgeries with the same physician already for the ectopic pregnancies. I knew they had an amazing unit for GYN surgeries, and I knew I was where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the surgery the next morning. So I get my dinner, 4:30 in the afternoon. You get that hospital dinner. I'm trying to relax after dinner. I'm trying to just picture the best possible outcome. I'm just trying to visualize it by myself. The moment I picture the best outcome, I pop right out of my body. I leave my body and I see above me on the hospital ceiling, the ceiling of my room, I can see all this white light coming down toward me. And I look back over my shoulder, over my left shoulder at my body in bed, and I'm like, look at her. My goodness, she's whiter than the sheets. She's really in a bad way. And then I'm like, why am I referring to myself in the third person?
Mm.
Who am I if that's Wendy in the bed? And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm my pure soul. I feel fantastic to be out of that body. That body is flatter than a pancake. That thing's a mess. So I just felt great. And I look over my shoulder again and I'm like, she's fine. Very blasé about the body because I felt so great to be me. And all I can see is the white light above me. I'm determined and so interested in going up to explore that. So I float up, go out of the hospital, and I can see more and more of the earth below me. It becomes like a Google Earth view, and then it becomes an astronaut's view. And it's just so beautiful, but all I can see is that white light that I want to go up to. And I did reach a certain point. I didn't know a lot about NDEs. I was only 36, no spiritual practice, just really not on my radar at all. Just a conservative, really busy, hardworking MBA mother, working full time, just not on my radar. But I'm looking up and I'm thinking, oh, please don't make me walk through one of those tunnels. I will not make it. It's just going to take too much energy. And the moment I thought that, this pristine escalator came in just for me. And I plopped myself on that escalator with such gratitude. And I could see my body at that point, or the physical form I was in. I was like a beach ball, white, just energy, sparkly, but I was so deflated. So eating out for days. So I just kind of like smooshed over the rail on the escalator and I just like kind of laying there and let it carry me up. At the top of the escalator, it was magical because there was this welcoming committee. And that same angel was there, who I now recognize was Archangel Michael. And he said, welcome home, Wendy. We're so glad you made it. You've done nothing wrong. You're so welcome to stay. I could see other angels with him. They were in the back and they were bigger. And I could also see other beautiful white, big orbs of light, like kind of like a beach ball size. Like I should have looked, but they weren't deflated. I sensed, this is my soul group. This is my soul family. And I was so excited because I recognized all 4 grandparents. I knew my mom's parents well. I had lived with them. But my dad's parents, they died before I was born. But to recognize them is that soul level recognition, and your intuition is just, it's just totally flowing. And so I could see them, and they all gave me this huge hug. I could have stayed in that hug forever because it was unconditional love. And we don't get that on earth very often. So I feel it's vital we learn how to give it to ourselves,
Yeah.
and that we learn how to give it to others to the best of our ability. So I get this huge hug. And then Archangel Michael says to me, I can tell you three things because you're going to need to make a decision quickly. And I thought, yeah, that hot mess in the bed, that's not going to that's not going to be viable very long with me up here. So I just knew that. And he said, I can tell you three things. If you choose to go back, you will have a successful surgery tomorrow. You will regain your health fully. Number two, your baby will be born healthy. You could not have told me two more welcome, huge things because I was really, really concerned about both of us, understandably, given the situation I was in.
Yeah.
So that was huge. Until then, I was absolutely going to stay home, but now I'm kind of like teetering a little bit. What do I do? The third thing he said to me is, if you go back, life will be very difficult, likely for many years, because you're not on your life path. I am horrified to hear this. I am so chagrined. I am so worried, embarrassed, everything. And I just look at him like, oh my goodness, what should I be doing? What should I not be doing? Please tell me more about my purpose. I really want to live my purpose. And he just gently shook his head. So I realized he wasn't going to tell me anything more. So I thought, well, come on, there's 20 people here. Let me look around. Someone's got to tell me something. And you're just perfectly communicating via telepathy. Everyone knows what everyone's thinking and feeling. I thought someone's got to give. So I looked around to try and find a chatty Cathy in the group. Couldn't find one. So now I'm like, oh my goodness, what do I do with this decision? And the other soul family members, they realized I was getting stressed. So they started being really silly. And they're like putting duct tape over their mouths where their mouth would be. They're like locking it with the key and throwing the key. But they're just so lighthearted about it all that I felt uplifted and buoyed again. And I thought, oh, come on, Wendy, you can do this. You're going to regain your health. You're going to have this precious newborn. And Michael said to me then, what do you want to do? You need to choose right now. What do you want to do? The minute he asked me that, it was like seeing an IMAX screen, like the 70-foot fill your view screen. All I could see was my toddler's face. I could see Tara's adorable face and her little brown curly hair. And I said to him, I'm going back for my children. Put me back in, coach. I'm ready. I'm ready to play, and I'm ready to play at a different level now that I've been given this gift. And also now that I know I'm not on my path, I need to find my path and live my purpose. So everyone gives me another huge group hug. That time I caught on. It was not just unconditional love and true healing. It was energy. They gave me this huge energy download. I do not think I would have survived the surgery otherwise and recovered. So they all give me this beautiful gift. And then I just turn and I go back down the escalator and I'm like looking over my shoulder and kind of waving, and everyone's like cheering me on and so excited that I'm going to go back in there. And they're just all saying, you can do it. And I just float gently into my body. And it's just that easy. I'm back in my body. So I do have a successful surgery the next day. What they discovered during the surgery is the fundus, which is the aorta at the top of the uterus, ruptured. So my uterus had torn open. It was not like a gallbladder or something that was non-vital. Hello, it's my uterus and I'm pregnant. So they're able to surgically repair it without disturbing the fetus. Now it's a blessing that she's only 10 weeks. So of course the fetus is, this tiny little pet. If that, and the surgeon commented to me, they must have had imaging, guided imaging while they were doing the surgeries, as we could see the fetus way, way, way down low, and we were working up high.
Mm.
Um, aren't you just a fortunate woman? Isn't that a miracle baby?
Mm.
So, hospital recovering for a few days. I go back home, 6 weeks of strict bed rest. I am weaker than a kitten because I am so many quarts of blood low. I can only go up and down the stairs to go to my bedroom once a day. Fortunately, we had the live in nanny who was amazing. She's not only taking care of Tara, she's taking care of me. And I go back to work. I go back part time for the first couple of weeks, and then I'm back to work full time in a job I love. I'm there for about 6 weeks. People asked me what happened. They're like, "We're so glad you're back. We heard you had a medical emergency. Are you okay? What's going on?" And Louise, I would just look at them. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to
Mm.
process it. I didn't know how to break it down. I did not find IANS, the International Association for Near Death Studies support group. And the irony of that, because I lived in Seattle, which has the oldest chapter in the US, 40 plus years. So here I was in the perfect place to have found support and information. I didn't know about it.
Mm.
I didn't really speak about the near death experience for about 20 years because I just didn't know how to process it or unpack it. But it became a very important part of the foundation of the spiritual awakening that would then come up. So, fast forward to what happens. Oh, how do I get on the path? Or should I stop at this point? Do you have questions?
Well, I just find it interesting that it quite often occurs that way. I mean, I was somebody who I came in knowing who we all are and shut that awareness down. And so my journey was, and again, through quite challenging in a lot of ways experiences, physical trauma, kind of having that nudge to go, come on, it's time to get fully on your path. Because again, I was so off my path, but deliberately so. Um,
Mhm.
but I just find it interesting that it often happens that way. It's often something that from a personality perspective, we find quite traumatic or quite challenging. It be a
Yes.
physical experience or it be a breakdown in something. You know, we kind of have to have this breakdown moment to awaken. It seems like those two go hand in hand quite often.
You're
Um,
so right. That breakdown to break through and waking up spiritually, it can be just so discombobulating. It can be so confusing for people, frightening for people, and there can be a lot of loss involved. Whether it's job, health,
yeah,
relationships, home, whatever it might be. That's that shaking you to wake you type of thing.
yeah.
Again, to get us on the path.
Mm.
So I'm back at work then, and 6 weeks after I'm back to work, job I love, great performance reviews, everything's looking up again. I get laid off very suddenly. I am just so concerned and upset by this layoff because we really counted on my income. I'm carrying the health insurance for the whole family. And don't forget, I'm pregnant. I'm now very visibly pregnant. This is not a great time to be looking for a job. And I really was, it was a tough, tough layoff.
Mm.
And so I go home and, update my family. It's like, okay, let's file for unemployment. Let's, tighten our belts. Let's, do what we need to do financially. But we were heavily mortgaged at that point because we had just moved into a new home, expecting the next baby. We had just purchased a minivan, again, expecting the next baby. And my husband, thankfully, had a great job. He had his own software company. He was one of five partners, and his company was about 3 years old at that time. 1 week to the day later, after my layoff, he is hours late coming home from work, and I'm getting concerned. I'm thinking, was he an offender bender? What's going on here?
Mm.
He walks in the door about 8 o'clock at night, weight of the world on his shoulders, and says, "Wendy, we need to talk. Please sit down." And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And what he told me was his company had gone belly up very, very quickly. They had laid off essentially everyone in the company, and he was going to be working payless paydays. And I'm looking at him going, does not compute. Those two words don't go together. What are you saying to me? And he explained that they had sold contracts and he was going to have to be doing programming to fulfill the contracts that they'd already sold and been paid for, as well as they had to figure out, how to take care of employees the best they could, do all the outplacement for them. They had to figure out what to do with their big, beautiful office. This was back in the day when, we still had big, beautiful offices. And then again, employing 100 people in downtown Bellevue, across from Seattle. So they had they had a big lease to figure out what to do with. And so we were really in a whale of hurt at that point. And I'm trying to be empathetic, because it's one thing to be laid off from a job that you really love and or count on. It's another to lose your own baby of your own company. Yes. So I'm trying to be empathetic to this and saying to him, oh, we'll figure it out. Just breathe. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Just take the weekend, and on Monday, please file for unemployment. And there the surprises keep coming. Oh, Wendy, I don't qualify for unemployment. I'm self-employed. And that didn't compute for me either, because I'd never been self-employed. So I didn't realize that. So I'm like, wait a minute, you're going to be working 60 to 80 hours a week for no pay and can't take on another job because you're going to be trying to sell the company and settle out all these things, and you have no unemployment. So you're now literally down to my unemployment only for a family of 4 and have no health insurance for me to deliver. Is that where we're at? Yes, that's where we were at. So we go through a lot of financial chaos and crunch and crisis, doing our best to manage all that. We did not know at the time. This was November of 1997, and the US was heading into a deep recession. But of course, no one's got the crystal ball. We didn't know that. So we were thankfully saved by what I call Bank of Mom. And my mother stepped to the plate when we had exhausted, savings and credit cards, and she made up the shortfall each month so that we did not lose our home. We did not lose our van, because both were in severe jeopardy. And we were very fortunate. Our daughter was born healthy on Friday, March 13th, 1998. Just like Archangel Michael said, your daughter will be born healthy. And what happened was the planetary astrology must have shifted, or my husband and my personal astrology shifted. Baby's born on a Friday, and Monday, 2 days later, right when I really need him home, he goes off to work in the new job and was able to get his company sold. So he's, off at work 60 hours a week. So that's okay. We agree. I'm going to take a 90-day maternity leave, and then I'm going to go back to work. So that's exactly what happens. The other things that came up along the way, talk about hearing your intuition. I was in the pediatrician's office while I was still pregnant, and I'm there with our older daughter, and I can hear Archangel Michael again say, look. So I'm looking all around the room like, oh my goodness, are the kids all okay? Because, pediatrician's office, one of them's, chewing on an electrical cord or like pulling the table over. You've got to really be looking. And what I could see was all lit up. There was this little side table with a lamp, and I could see this brochure all lit up when Michael said, look, like that. So I tucked my daughter under my arm, ran over and grabbed it, shoved it in the diaper bag to read later. What it was information how to apply for a program called WIC, which is Women, Infants, and Children. And it provided health insurance for me to deliver. And it provided some food for us, some healthy food that we really needed. Basically, it was a specific form of Medicaid, of government assistance. And we had looked and we had tried to apply for many things, but we didn't qualify for anything because we owned a home. And that kept blocking us from getting aid for anything, even though we were both out of work, and I was in a physical, really still in a health crisis, because that was not an easy pregnancy to be going through after what had happened so early on. So we're now both back to work, but the other, go back one moment, right when our daughter was born. So I'm in the hospital for a very brief stay, what they call the drive-through delivery. You get only a 24-hour stay, including labor. So I'm back at home very quickly the next day, and I'm sitting holding Taylor, and just more thrilled, I think, than any new parent has ever been, because to have been through what we did and to be holding this healthy, beautiful little girl, it's a really big deal. Not been home an hour before I heard Archangel Michael again say, your contract with your husband is complete. This was not the message I wanted to hear. I almost dropped the baby. I was so startled because I could hear him so clearly. And I didn't really know what soul contracts were at the time. And I said to him, what do you mean by that? Are you saying my marriage is over? My marriage is meant to end? And he said, yes. It's like, oh my goodness, I do not want this message. I resist this message. I reject this message. And I later found my soul contract with my former husband was to have a long-term marriage that we would both grow from considerably, and to have beautiful children together, children, plural. So there, an archangel tells me, when I've got the baby that's not even a day old, your contract's complete. So we did our very best to be great parents, great spouses, but when you've had that sort of an experience, it is very hard to make it work, because I knew the truth.
Yeah.
And we did divorce when our daughters were in school full time. So when they were 6 and 8, and when our youngest was starting first grade, because I chose that as the best time, because we were going to be able to successfully co-parent that way. We did a 50-50 residential schedule, did everything to make it be very peaceful, be very kind to one another. But the marriage was complete. And that was how we raised our children. So, back and forth between the two households. Again, we were very fortunate. My mom, she was retired. I'm the only child. It's the only grandchildren. And she was just having less and less things keep her in Boston, where she lived. And we're all the way in Seattle. So we're 3,200 miles apart.
Oh, wow.
And we've already been having more and more friends say to her, why don't you consider moving out to Seattle? With your daughter and with your family, you just really don't have anything holding you here anymore. So when we chose to divorce, that was just the perfect time for her to come on out. And she just was team grandmom, and just, completely neutral party. If I needed help, great. If my former husband needed help, she would do that too. She was just helping whoever needed help, and would take the kids or pick up the kids or do whatever was needed, because we're both working full time and, running two households. So two single parents that definitely both needed help. So that's what happened. And then the next big spiritual awakening and listening and finding my intuition, which I had not been good at, clearly, came through. Of all the crazy things, came about 6 years after the divorce. Life was going really well. My mother and I had been able to build our dream duplex. So we're living in two sides of the same home, but we each have our own home. And I've really reinvented my career. My career is going great. Our daughters are doing great. They're now 12 and 14. And Louise, it was one of those moments of just, wow, what's missing? Everything's fantastic. Something's missing. Well, it was time for me to meet a great guy. I had no idea how to do that. So I went to a good source, and I asked my younger girlfriends who were actively dating, And it's like, I just don't feel like I'm meeting anybody, through church or through friends of friends. I'm sure not going to meet them in a bar. It's not college anymore. I just don't feel like I meet a lot of single men who'd be good candidates. And they're like, oh, Wendy, it's so easy. You just go on match.com. And I'm like, match. What? I don't know what you're talking about. I did not know what online dating was. So, and this was 2010. So girlfriends helped me put together a profile. And the moment that I put my search radius to 10 miles, I saw this profile come up, and I'd been doing it for about maybe 3 or 4 months, and been out on some first, second dates, but it's okay. It's just part of the process. But when I changed my search parameters, this profile came up, and I'm like, oh, I know him. I know him. I know him. It was soul recognition at a profound level. And it was like I knew what he was going to write in his profile before I even read it. Not that it was in any way mundane or typical. It was quite the opposite. The final sentence he had in there was, any woman on a spiritual journey, particularly if you're interested in LBL, we have to meet. And I'm like, LBL, what is LBL? So I'm Googling to make sure it's not some drug reference I don't want to get involved with. Because like I said, I just have no idea. I haven't been out dating in 25 years, and I have no clue. So what I find is Life Between Lives, Dr. Michael Newton, A Journey of Souls. So I write to him immediately and said, are you referring to Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton? Is that what you're referring to as LBL? And he says, yes. Are you familiar? Have you been to one? I said, I just ordered the book from the library. This was before Kindle, instant gratification. Yeah. I'm waiting to get the book from the library because, again, it's 2010. And it took us but he and we could not stop talking. We're like emailing, texting, on the phone, trying to sync up schedules to meet. And it took us 3 weeks to meet for lunch on a weekday near my office. By then, I'd received the book and had devoured the book because I knew Journey of Souls. It just felt like deepest truth for me. And I knew I had to go for a past life regression to be able to go for a life between lives. And my match turned out to have the soul contract to wake me up spiritually. So, which he did, via this soul level recognition we had, and via introducing me to Journey of Souls and past life regression. So we do meet for lunch. He walks in, and I was already there, and I was sitting in the foyer of the restaurant. And Louise, when he walked in, I felt the earth move. I thought there was an earthquake. I could not stand up. And I'm sitting glued in place, probably with my jaw on the floor. And he walked in, he recognized me immediately. Yes, we have pictures, but people don't always look like their pictures. And he walked in and said, Wendy, it's you. I found you. I've been looking for you. And he dropped down on one knee in front of me and just was like looking and looking in my eyes and said, I found you. So he helped me up, and that kind of like broke the spell. I'm like, okay, there's no earthquake. I can walk. We went in and we talked for 3 hours. I think we would have stayed longer, but we both were like, oh my God, I've got to get back to work. What we realized was we had been playing this game of how do I know you? We'd been comparing everywhere we'd lived, everywhere we'd been, every group we'd ever belonged to as past lives. We found 21 past lives together.
Right.
So that was just such a major, major part of the spiritual awakening. I then went and had my first past life regression. And then pretty quickly became a past life regressionist from that experience because it was just so positive.
It's interesting because the way spirit works with me, or through me rather, is very different to going into the past life regression, having an awareness of the narratives or the storyline and things like that. they work with me through me to clear all the issues and the blocks that are kind of stopping us in this lifetime, in this moment. And they kind of show me that all time is now, and we're connected into those past lives where things have happened that have created a contract or an agreement or a decree statement. And they enable that to be healed or cleared, so that we can take the gifts and the talents back, but we let go of the wound. Are you okay?
That's wonderful.
I'll let you just have a moment, because I know what it's like when you
My voice isn't going to come back. I'm hearing this is it for me.
yeah. But obviously with past life regression, that's very different. I mean, you go into the story, you go into the lifetimes to gain more of an understanding of what was happening, and the perfect synchronicity of how they're impacting in this now.
Yes. So would you like to share my contact info, Louise?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Wendy has offered a free gift and also a special offer. So for anybody who wants to have a free 15-minute phone appointment with Wendy, to talk about, how she may be able to assist you, her work, and to see where the two of you may be moving forward together. This is on the free gifts page, and this is a 15-minute free phone appointment just for this community. And a special offer is a private one-to-one healing session, which includes a 45-minute one-to-one session with Wendy via Zoom, where you're going to journey to a healing temple and receive some balancing of the four major elements, enhancing of your chakras, and also to meet a spirit guide to receive a gift and a message to uplift you and to hopefully kickstart your own, awakening, or even if you're on your awakening journey, to bring in that perfect message or that perfect piece of guidance to take you to the next step. There's a couple of things from your story that really kind of struck me in a lot of people's stories, and it's something that we often miss from a human perspective, is those perfect synchronistic aspects and elements of our journey where the perfect people arrive, or even though your life's gone completely chaotic and really challenging, something happens. Our universal self, our highest self, steps in to provide the perfect person, the perfect message, the perfect situation to kind of assist us in that next step. And I also liken, whatever we do. So even listening to this conversation, and this may have triggered something within you that kind of takes you on your next step, or any other kind of conversation, like the magazine in the doctor's room, and him just writing those 3 letters and you kind of looking, and that's taking you on that next part of the journey into the past life regression. We're receiving messages and guidance all the time, but when we're caught in our little human self mode, we miss them. And it's like being open and allowing ourselves to fully connect in with those messages. So I highly recommend connecting with Wendy and her work. The details of her website will be on the emails and on the SoundCloud audio replay. They will also be on the free gifts page and the special offer page, so please go and check those out. You can find them on the website on the mundane-to-magical-living.com. Under free gifts, there will also be the buttons under the upcoming calls, photo, and also on the replay page, photo on the website. So go and have a look at Wendy's special offer page, feel into whether this feels like something that you feel aligned to connecting in with. As I say, Wendy is a past life regression therapist and assists many people to connect with their own healthy, happy, and fulfilling lives, as she has done on her awakening journey. Everybody's awakening journey is going to be slightly different, but there are going to be some synchronicities, some similarities as well. And Karen has just put in the chat that she's already had a 15-minute free call with Wendy, and she really recommends her offer. So yes, she hopes you're feeling better soon as well, Wendy.
Oh, thank you. Yes, this has just been such interesting timing. I've not had the crud like this in 15 years. So my apologies. Thank you all for being so kind. And thank you for having me as your guest, Louise.
No, it's absolutely fine. I mean, both of the two speakers that have been on the show just before your call, and obviously I've been ill with it for 2 weeks prior to the summit starting, said so many people are having the clearing from their heart and from their throats. It's just, we're doing it for the collective.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a collective. And I worked with my spiritual teacher yesterday, and I said, there's something very stuck. It's the heart. The heart is clearing through the throat, and it's just having a big physical presentation right now. So we just have to say this is a collective clearing and just embrace it and try and have the best sense of humor you can about it.
Absolutely. I mean, I always try and look at things like this. I mean, even with some of my awakening moments, like falling down the stairs and being paralyzed, as you know, you look at it, you shift your perspective.
My goodness.
Not from the kind of the victim place of, you know, why is this happening to me? But, oh, okay, that's interesting. Where did that lead me? And
right. Why is this happening for me versus
exactly.
to me?
Yeah.
It takes us out of that victim place that we can be in. And wow, that's profound, Louise, that you went through that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually sort of say and know that it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I know that sounds very strange to say that, but you know, I've had a few accidents and incidents happen in my life, but they've always been divinely timed to give me that space to actually connect in with myself. And one of the things that, you know, I had hoped that we would talk about was, you know, that connecting in with our higher self. And it really is just shifting our perspective and being open to connect with however it wants to come through. I mean, you had it in a very, very real, very visceral way, you know, angels in your room, Archangel Michael speaking to you. It's not always like that, but it's allowing yourself to be open and to connect in whatever way your higher self, you know, however it shows up, wants to connect in with you. And it can be as simple as listening to a podcast, having a conversation with a friend, being in nature, or seeing something go past on a billboard that just really strikes you. And it's just being open to fully receive that message. So please check out Wendy's special offer. Please feel free to take her up on the 15-minute phone appointment. Obviously, the schedule may be slightly pushed back while she recovers her voice, but I'm sure you will thoroughly enjoy your connection with Wendy and her work. And yeah, thank you so much, Wendy, for joining me. I know it was a difficult time for you to come on with your throat and everything, but yeah, I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Really, my pleasure. And just really want to, I really applaud what you said about it's just that heart through throat collective clearing that we're doing right now. And just onwards and upwards for all of us as humanity, and just being really grounded with Mother Earth right now. So your point about being in nature is so well timed so that we can be very grounded as we ascend and just clear out the crud.
Absolutely. And that is something actually many of us have cleared through the higher energetic levels of our own multidimensional incarnated form. And what I have noticed and noted for my own journey is this journey is all about embodiment, and we have to clear this dense physical layer. And so at some point it is going to be this very physical clearing. So don't be afraid when we go into these physical clearing episodes. Embrace them, enjoy it if you can. But you know, in a way, it's great because you really are clearing out that densest layer of your own being so that you can hold more of your own divine light. And it's so beautiful when we can hold more and more of that light. That also helps us shift our perspective and connect us to our higher guidance in a much clearer way. But it's dropping into the heart, coming out the head, dropping here into the heart, and opening yourself up to the experience. So I'm going to bring this conversation to a close. I'm going to let Wendy go and do what she needs to do to soothe her throat and her chest. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us live. Thank you again, Wendy. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy to connect with you. And I look forward to connecting with you again at some point on another season of the summit.
Likewise, Louise.
Another live call, everybody. It's with Nan Akasha, and again we will be talking about intuition, and this time Akasha will be talking about intuition playground. So being playful with it. You know, we've gone through the kind of the spiritual practice. It's all hard work. No, it's play, it's joy, it's bliss, it's connection, and I'm really looking forward to that conversation with Nan tomorrow. So until then, so much love to you all, everybody. So much love to you, Wendy. And I'll see you all again tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.